Okay, welcome everyone to Defining Tanya, up to Ois Nun. Last week we discussed Mesiras Nefesh, now up to Ois Nun. Ois Nun begins with Nefesh. So this is a really Yesod the sticker class, and ideally we should like have graphs and stuff and like whatever, but we don't have that, so we're gonna just try and work it out. Okay, so in Nefesh. In the Tanya, we speak about three different nefashos. We have the nefesh of Bahamis, the nefesh of Sichlis, and the nefesh of Akis. Okay, the nefesh of Bahamis, nefesh Sichlis, Sichlis are kind of comparable. They're not really comparable, but they're mirror images of the same thing. The nefesh of Sichlis is like a different thing. It's not like a regular nefesh, okay? It's something else. We call it a nefesh Sichlis, but we'll see why it's different. B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, so a nefesh, Rashi says a nefesh is basically a rotzon. And we know that the panemius of a rotzon is oineg. Really, to really break it down, let me just turn this distracting stuff off. To break it down really to the smallest change, so to speak, the the nefesh is an oineg. It is oineg. That's what it is. That's the essence of the nefesh is pleasure. And then from pleasure comes Ratzon, Seichel, Midas, Levushim. But it's all a derivative or everything else devolves from pleasure. So that's the essence of what a nefesh is it wants pleasure. Now it depends what its pleasure is. Its pleasure is either itself or the Ribono Shel Olam. That's the options. Pleasure is either your own personal pleasure, like that's your own sense of self. That would be the nefesh of Bahamis, and the pleasure with which is God. Yeah, that would be the nefesh of Akis. Meaning not that its pleasure is contact with God. It's that the essence of what it is God. The essence of what you are as a human is pleasure, meaning you need pleasure, you're searching for pleasure, you love pleasure, whatever it is, yeah, that's driving everything. That's driving your will, that's driving your intellect, that's driving your emotions, that's driving your behavior. So really all it is just pleasure. That's what you are, that's what the soul is. It's just a I don't know how to say it. It's just like a point of pleasure. I don't know how to say it, but that's what the soul actually is. So you can call that Ratzon because pleasure and Ratzon are are like pleasure is the inner dimension of Ratzon. Ratzon is pleasure going out. If if something's pleasurable, then you go after it. That's the Ratzon. If something touches your pleasure, which really means, excuse me, it touches your most essential sense of self, then you chase after it. And if it hurts that, then you flee from it. But it's either way, it's Ratzon, yeah. So that is what a nefesh really is. It's a point of pleasure in reality. If we're talking about the nefesh of Bahamis, it's a point of its own independent pleasure in reality, which is really an illusion or a delusion or a or or a a sheker. I don't know how you call it, but the fact that there is another pleasure other than Hashem's pleasure in the world, that's the nace of creation. But there's another being that has its own sense of pleasure. And that's what happened by the Chet Eitz Hadas, is that it said that Adam was embarrassed. Yeah. And Or Chaim says that it was when Adam it wasn't just that he was undressed, he was naked. He was embarrassed because he was having relations with Chava and he experienced his own independent pleasure for the first time in history. I mean, history wasn't that old at that point, but first time in history. And that was like the embarrassment that we spoke about before, the idea of, the spaghetti stain on the white, on the guy wearing all white. How does the spaghetti stain feel? That was the embarrassment, meaning that now Adam appreciated his own pleasure, his own sense of pleasure. Now he became an independent being, and that was embarrassing because really, Ein Od Milvado, all there is God, and now there's just this point of pleasure called me. That's embarrassing. That's what Adam was embarrassed about, and that is the essence of the Nefesh Bahamis. Okay, so now let's go on from there. So the very inner point of the soul, which is really the whole thing, is everything else is just a devolvement of that, is pleasure. Pleasure, excuse me, pleasure becomes enclosed in will. Rotson. Rotson is ordered through Seichel. Seichel gives birth to emotions, and emotions is expressed as behavior. That's the whole thing. So it is just pleasure because the pleasure energizes the will, and the will is ordered through the intellect, and the intellect gives birth to emotions, and the emotions are expressed as behavior. So if you want to bring it down to Inyane Dioma, of this world, is think about Amazon, as you've said many times, yeah? Really, all Amazon is a massive expression of Jeff Bezos. He's the kingpin at the top, yeah, and he's energizing, so to speak, this pyramid of concentric layers, so to speak, until it gets down to like the mailmen and that the guys who deliver the packages and all the machinery, etc., etc. So really, all it is Jeff Bezos. That's really all it is. And Michael, you're in Europe, yeah?
As of Monday, I bought a ticket. So this was the last minute ticket.
Bring it
Michael, you're on the bus?
Yeah, I made it. They pulled over. They let me on.
on. So we've got
Sure.
we're
You see a hand
discussing
waving?
nefesh, yeah? Nun. Shalom Aleichem. Ois nun, nefesh. So we got Yitzi, give the breakdown. Go on.
This is from the beginning, Mike, 3 years running. How
Yeah,
does it work? What's the Nefesh Bahamis? What's the source? What's driving us?
yeah.
What's driving us, Michael? What is it? What part of us of our
Some
what's
some
the
funny
breakdown?
Ukrainian guy.
Oneg, Ratzon, Seichel, Midos, Levushim.
Yes. Go on, say
And
that
my
in English and
question
describe
to
it.
Oneg pleasure. How do you describe a Jew? You put Hashem's pleasure before our pleasure.
That would be identified with the
Magnificent.
Nefesh of the Keys over the Nefesh of Bahamas. I can't hear you. Can't hear you. You see? You gone?
Is driving the pleasure, and that puts you or taking away.
It's a bad. I can't hear you. It's a bad line. Oh, and they're gone just like that. We wait. You guys back? What happened? You both got cut off at the same time.
And I nailed it too. That's too bad.
So start again, you see, start again.
Okay. I don't know where I left off, but
You
we
said you
went through the
started by
Hebrew
all you
words.
said was oineg, and then you that was it.
Okay, so you have oneg, and then you have ratzon, you have seichel, you have midus, and you have that is pleasure. That's driven by ratzon,
No, no, no.
right? Ratzon drives the your oneg.
No, 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 opposite.
Am I going to lose you again?
Opposite. Oineg. Oineg is the panemius of Ratzon. Oineg drives Ratzon. What play
So, but from oneg is ratzon,
so Oineg is the top, then comes Ratzon. Yeah,
correct?
Ratzon comes from Oineg. Yeah. You said it backwards. I think just made a mistake.
Okay. Can you still hear me?
Go on.
Then you have seichel, which is objective.
So what happens? What does the Seichel do to Ratzon?
It it I don't know. You tell me. I'm going to get the words wrong.
So it's really bad. The line is really bad as well. Um, so
I'm sorry. I'm so
when we
sorry.
say Ratzon, yeah,
This is
we're not
Mhm.
talking about your Ratzon for chocolate or your Ratzon to build your business, yeah. We're talking about your Ratzon to live, which is really the pleasure, the ultimate pleasure, yeah, is being alive. But because we're always alive, yeah, we don't know what that feels like to not have that. So a Tanug Tamidi ain't a Tanug, but it really is the ultimate pleasure, being alive. And that's why we long to live. Now that will to live is a chaotic, unordered, it's just pure energy. What drives you, what gives you energy to do anything is your will to live. It sounds funny, it sounds a bit, we put it in, it sounds a bit epic, but that really is what happens. So now that will to live would just that will to live would overwhelm and obliterate everything. It's so powerful. So what happens is that will to live is ordered through your mind, through your intellect. And that gives birth to emotions. So your desire for chocolate, your let's call it your love for chocolate, your love for honor, yeah, or your hatred for your next door neighbor who plays his music very loudly, or for herring, whatever you hate, yeah, that is to do with your desire to live that has been ordered through the through the through the how do you say it? Through the structure of your brain. Your brain is structured in a way. Everyone's brain is structured in a certain way, depending on your nature and your nurture. Yeah, to say it on one foot. Your brain works as it does, and his brain works as it does, and her brain works as it does. Product of nature and nurture. Everyone has a different brain, a different mind, a different seichel, yeah? So your ratzon, your will to live, is ordered through that processing system, and it comes out with different things. So because your brain thinks in different ways, that means your emotions work in different ways. And that means that your behavior is different to everybody else's behavior. You with me? So that's the raw energy. The raw energy is Ratzon, which is the will to live. That's a chaotic, raw energy. Raw is the best word. It's raw energy. That is ordered through your mind, through the intellect, which now is, and that is very specific to you. Like everybody's will to live is basically the same. Yeah. There's no difference in your will to live and his will to live. There could be stronger wills or less strong wills, but you've all got the same will to live. But everybody's mind is completely different. And therefore, everybody's emotions are different. And therefore everyone's behavior is different.
Isn't everybody's own egg different as well?
No, no, because remember, we're not talking about Oineg being like you like herring and I like chocolate. That's down in the world of Midas, of emotions. The Oineg we're talking about is the pleasure of being alive, which generates the energy to live, that is ordered through the mind, that is born as an emotion towards herring or away from herring, depending on whether you were born as a chassid in Jerusalem or as a modern guy in New York, in New
But,
York or LA.
Reb Shmuel, if that's true, that oneg, every time you mentioned oneg or Hashem's oneg before our oneg, and
But
oneg
it's you'll get
means
don't say that. That's going to get you confused about Hashem's Oineg before our Oineg. Let's just talk about our Oineg, yeah?
okay, well then my question is going to be that because if our oneg is the will to live, then
No.
how then
The will to
hmm,
live comes from the pleasure of life. Now, this is what you say, yeah? When you eat chocolate, yeah, you say it gives me pleasure if it gives you pleasure.
touch
But the way to really say it, like we said many, many times, is it touches your pleasure. And that experience of pleasure is the pleasure of that what you call the pleasure of the chocolate is really the pleasure of life. That's what pleasure is, enclosed in a package that we call chocolate. And because of your nature nurture, you like chocolate. And because of my kid's nature nurture, he likes herring and gala and all kinds of funny stuff. And for me, that's revolting. But it's a touch of life. That's the most important thing. You're pursuing life. When you are pursuing your pleasure, you're really pursuing life on the most essential level. Like we're really stripping away the graphics here. Like no one talks this deep generally. Yeah, you with me? So the fact that you like pleasure, the fact that everyone likes pleasure, the fact that you like chocolate and he likes gala is to do with the mind and the emotions and then the behavior. But above that is raw. That's why Rotson is. Anybody knows what Rotson is connected to in the picture of in the spheres? What's Rotson called? Rotson's Kesser, crown, which is above the head, which means it's not within the system. Your system begins from Seichel. So you have control over your Seichel. You don't have control over your Ratzon. You can't lose your will to live unless, well, we know that you can cloud your will to live by stupid thinking. Yeah, that's the general, 95% of the people who commit suicide is probably more than likely that their thinking stupid. Their crazy thinking has clouded their will to live. Their will to live is still there. It's just they've obscured it with crazy thinking. Yeah, but there is that you can lose your will to live if you are suffering chronic pain. That can actually, because if a person has no pleasure, if there's no pleasure, if life is just pain, which can be if a person has some kind of chronic pain, lo aleinu, chas v'shalom, like I have a taste of this when I have my gout attacks, yeah? Like, it could be for, you know, 24, 48, 36 hours of, sorry, 48, 72, up to like 48 hours of just relentless, non-relenting deep pain. Yeah, it's enough to drive you crazy. It's enough to you want to die after it's going to get better, so you get through it. But you can that, and that's the whole point. This is proving the entire idea is that when the pleasure doesn't exist, everything else shuts down. There's no Ratzon, therefore there's no Seichel, therefore there's no Midas, therefore there's no behavior, and the system just the being dies, disappears. I don't know what you say. So that's so
Shmuel,
yeah.
sorry, do you mind? I'm sorry. Can you just break it down one more time? Like slow,
I'll break it
from
down 100 more times.
just yeah, from Oneg. And how does it get? So Oneg is the pleasure to be alive.
Yes. Well, it's not the pleasure of being alive. It's just oineg. The pleasure is being alive. Everything else is just a derivative of that pleasure. Whether it's
Fine.
sex,
It's
food, or honor, or money, or power, or all of that stuff, it's all really a derivative of the pleasure of being alive. That's
and
what
Rutson drives it.
no, that pleasure drives Watson.
Why does it need? Why does it need it if it has the seichel? What is the Rutson doing that seichel does not doing?
The Watson is the energy. The Watson is like the electricity that is ordered through the mind that then gets born into something productive. We call that an emotion. Your will to live is just a chaotic, even in a way, a destructive energy. It's just pure energy. It's like unrefined electricity at the power plant. It needs to get ordered through step down transistors, etc., until you can plug your toaster in. Otherwise, it will just explode your toaster. That's the same with your real desire to live. That's what happened by David and Melech when he danced, in front of Michal. And Michal said, how can you dance in such a way? And David was like, dance more than that. That's what happened there. Everyone saw David's his on to live, just express itself with no seichel. That's what dancing actually is. That's why a big person could be very inhibited from dancing because he could feel that if he was to just let go, it would shock. It would. I don't. People wouldn't be able to deal with it. And that's really, by the way, when we mean a big soul and a small soul, or a high soul and a low soul, is the power of the Ratzon. That's really what we're referring to. So now, the pleasure is the point, the essence. But what's pleasure? That that doesn't do anything. It's actually self-contained. It's more like black than it is light. It's more like darkness than it is light. It's just what it is. Ratzon is when that pleasure goes out. That's now it moving. It's like the sun and the light that comes off of the sun. That's exactly the mashal. The sun just sits there. It's just an orb of light. That's it. But now the Ratzon emanates from the sun. Yeah, that means that the Ratzon emanates from your Oineg. Now that is your desire to live. Now, what do you do with that? You have to take that energy and order it through the channels of your mind, through the filing system of your mind. And depending on your nature and nurture, you're going to order that energy differently. And therefore, if you grew up in Nazi Germany as one of the what they called the Hitler Youth or something, Yamach Shemal, was it something like that? Yeah. If you were born there as a goy in that generation, yeah, then your brain would have formed in a certain way, and your hatred would be for the Jews. Whereas if you were born in in um, in in Russia in the early 20s, or before that, and you were inculcated by the communists, yeah, and your brain formed according to their propaganda, now you would love communism. You would love Lenin and Trotsky and all that chevra. That's to do with the nature and nurture. So that's taking that energy and ordering it. And then that comes out as a emotion. I love this, or I hate that. And now, according to your love and your hate, will be your behavior, your thought, speech, and action. So that's the nefesh. And that's what we call, if you want to use like simple terms, you've got the oneg, which is called the soul of the soul. Yeah. Then you've got the Ratzon that is called the soul. Again, we're talking of the soul. So the oneg is the soul of the soul. The Ratzon is the soul. The intellect, the seichel is the head. The midas, the emotions are the body, and it has clothes. The clothing is the behavior, thought, speech, and action. Is that making sense? A little bit?
More definitely. Thank you.
Yeah. So now that's the soul. That's the nefesh. Yeah, Michael.
Sure, I'm gonna have to jump off. I have a 8 o'clock right now.
So
Thank you so much. Have a great.
have a good trip. Okay. So now you've got
The Ratzon is the Ratzon is driving it because it needs to it has energy. There's energy. It needs to be channeled. So it takes it to the seichel, and then it goes through the seichel, through this order, and finally gets to levushim.
goes to emotions and levushim. But Yitzi, what energizes the Ratzon? He froze again. What energizes the Ratzon is the.
Your oneg.
So Yitzi, what energizes the Ratzon?
Well, your oneg.
Yeah.
Your oneg, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So just we'll say one more time, yeah. Oneg energizes Ratzon. Ratzon is ordered. These are really important words, yeah. Oneg just is. It just is. Oneg energizes Ratzon. Ratzon is ordered through Seichel. Seichel gives birth to emotions. Emotions are expressed in behavior.
Perfect. Thank you.
Remember those words, yeah? Energized, ordered, given birth, and expressed.
Perfect. Thank you.
Oneg energizes Ratzon. Ratzon is ordered through Seichel. Seichel gives birth to emotions. Emotions are expressed through garments, through levushim, through behavior. Now you've got two of them. You've got the human one, the one of creation, and you've got the godly one, the one of creator. So now these are the two. These are the two. They're two. So the pleasure. Now this is the point. What makes them different is the pleasure, the essence. The essence of the godly soul is God. It's not a creation. It's not of creation. The lower levels of the soul are created. The Ratzon of the Nefesh Lakis is also not of creation. The Neshama is of creation. Kol v'chomer, the Ruach is of creation. Kol v'chomer kol sheken, the Nefesh of that soul is of creation. Yeah. So the intellect, the Midas, and the Levushim of the Nefesh Lakis are of creation, but the essence of it is God. There's a machloikus of what the essence of the animal soul is, and the one that makes sense to me is that the essence of the animal soul is nothing. Is whether you call it the shvira or the chalala panui, or I don't know what you call it. But that's the one that makes sense to me. I'm not going to talk about the other side, whatever. The one that makes sense to me is that the is that the Nefesh Bahamis does not have an essence. The essence of the Nefesh Bahamis is a lack, is a halal, is a vacuum, which is why we call it Sitra Achra. Remember, Sitra Achra means that it's just not Kadosh because there's no way of saying it positively. And that's the fight.
Opposite of Ein Sof.
Exactly. And that's the fight between, or that's the struggle of identity is between whether you're going to identify with your created soul or with your non-created soul. That's the Jewish struggle. Are you going to identify with being human or with being godly? That's the struggle of the Jew. And that struggle takes place within the Nefesh Maskeles. Now, I don't know much about this Nefesh. I really don't. The little bit that I do know is that it's I really don't know. There is like discussion of its structure and stuff like that, and I don't know. But just very simply, the Nefesh Maskeles is the arena in which this struggle for identity takes place, meaning your sense of self is derived from your Nefesh Maskeles. So now, what does that self become identified with? With the Nefesh Bahamis or with the Nefesh Lakis? That's the Nefesh Maskeles. Now, again, like I said, there is like discussion about instruction and things like that. I don't know about that, but the most basic way of understanding is you are a Nefesh Maskeles, and the question is, do you identify with the Nefesh Bahamis or identify with the Nefesh Lakis? Okay, that is Nefesh. Wow, we did a lot there. That was great. We went through Oineg, Ratzon, Seichel, Midas, and Levushim. So next week is Samach, Soviv Kramen. We did that. Oh, and then on Iron, we got Avodah Zarah. So next week's really Avodah Zarah. Okay, Chazak
Okay,
very
thank you
much.
so much. It was great. Thank you.
Have a great trip. Say
Okay, be in
say
touch.
hello to the tzaddikim for me, please.
I will. Of
Great.
course.
Kultiv.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.